Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to my podcast. I have a very special guest. His name is Eddie LeBron, and he is actually an inspiration to me because he is a really cool filmmaker. I love his work, and I'm really happy to have him here today. So before I gush and everything, I want you to just introduce yourself, tell us where you come from, your background, and what is it that you do?
Oh, yes, I am Eddie LeBron. Hi, everybody. I am a filmmaker, cinematographer, editor, director, lover of cheeses and IPAs, and I've been making films since I was 10. So the condensed history is I started with little action figures in front of a VHS camera, and then I started making short after short, went to film school, short after short, made a few decent, well-known films on YouTube. That led to my next career jump, more film, and I won an Emmy. That's great.
That's amazing. Congrats on that.
Thank you. And now I'm here, and it's so interesting that you gush for me because I'm a huge fan of you.
That's
so
awesome, man.
This is wonderful.
That means a lot. That's so cool. I really appreciate that, man. So Eddie LeBron is one of those cool peeps who is also a fan of the geek culture.
Oh goodness, yes.
So, which it's something that I find really admirable. So you are a big fan of comic books and video games, right?
Yes.
I can imagine.
Absolutely.
So, can you say that was one of your driving forces that led you to filmmaking? Because I wanted to know, what is it that got you into filmmaking?
I mean, you were pretty much on point. My earliest memories are watching Ghostbusters and Back to the Future, and just the whole, the treasure chest of 80s classics that, for whatever reason, I watched those on repeat until the late 90s. That was my what I digested as a filmmaker. So, and I had a Nintendo, I had a NES and a Super NES from as far back as I can remember. That was like my. Okay, so I was raised in Brooklyn for the first 6 years of my life, and I didn't really have many friends. Just the way things were kind of in Brooklyn. I went to Catholic school, and I just didn't have many friends. So it was me, the VHSs, and my NES. And between all that, that was my life outside of Catholic school. I would go to school, I would go home, I would watch Ghostbusters and Back to the Future and Transformers and anything that I had bootlegged because my parents were very into renting the tape and copying it over to another VHS. Yeah. And that was the majority of my interests up until I made my first film at age 10, which was just a bunch of action figures fighting each other in front of a camera. So geek culture is embedded in how I was influenced as a filmmaker and how I just carried myself moving forward in not only just filmmaking but in life, because that was my talking point. I still remember the very first day that Power Rangers was on Fox 5. I would rush from Catholic school every day, get home at 2:30. They would always play it at 2:30 in New York, and that was what I had to offer from personality-wise to other people that I met. It's oh, did you see Power Rangers? Oh, I love this. I have this toy. So it's that was my childhood, and that it carried into my profession. So yeah.
That's really, really cool. I mean, I love that because I kind of share the same thing. I was playing video games, watching movies, and those two things just stuck with me and built my childhood to what I am today. And that's what really got me to love the creative world. So I always wanted to know, the first film you put together as a kid.
Yeah.
Because there's always something that, for our first work, do you have it? Can people see it, or do you not let people see it? Because that's sometimes.
Here's the thing. It's if anyone asks to watch it, I will totally show them. So the very, very, very first thing I ever taped on camera, I have from August of 1998. The first half of it is me doing karaoke, which was very weird. But then the second half was me grabbing the camera, and I shot a fake documentary where my friend Michael Flannery, I was pretending that he was a creature in the wild, and it was me for 10 minutes just really making fun of him. Just I let him have it, and
That's funny.
he beat me on camera. It was so funny. Got to a point where he literally hit me on camera.
Oh wow.
We're still friends today, so I forgive him.
That's
But
cool.
that was the very, very first thing that I shot. Second thing that I shot was a fake little wrestling program where I took a bunch of action figures and I made my own little wrestling show. But I categorize that as just like trial and error. The very first thing that I think was a film, something that I edited and something that I went in picking shots, was a film called Terminator Headhunter.
Oh.
I still have a copy of that. I will show it to anyone who wants to watch it. It's just I don't know if I would release it to the wild, but also like I feel like I have to do it at the right time on my own terms, because I have to like put the right framing device like before anyone, and you need to understand where I was thinking, because it's a very, very interesting character study of me at age 15.
I can imagine.
I mean, I played the Terminator in it, so I was literally setting it up on the camera and doing the whole Terminator spiel, and I
cool.
took my performance way too seriously.
I could relate.
But yeah, like one day I'm going to put that out there. But if anyone asks, I will show it to them.
Cool.
But it's not publicly out there yet.
Yeah, I think one day we might when we have a documentary on you, it's probably gonna be shown.
It's going to be hilarious.
We want to see where it started, where it all
Oh
started.
my goodness.
Your first professional production.
It was a film called Ghostbusters Generation, 2005. It was interesting because I made a bunch of my own little stupid films, and then I realized one day, like, maybe I should get actors. Maybe I should write a script. Maybe I should like actually put up lights and stuff. So it was kind of like something clicked in my head, like maybe I should actually make a movie. Like, what's stopping me from taking that next step? What's stopping me from putting a casting call up and saying, hey, I want to do this? And then I did it. I'm going to make a 90-minute Ghostbusters movie. So me and my friend Mike DiPolo, we built the proton packs. We made the costumes. And it wasn't necessarily like we took shortcuts. Like, we made the proton packs. And I bought the right flight suits. I had my grandma stitch on all the patches. I was like 18 at the time. And I was like, we're doing this like legit. Because I just got a new camera at the time, like the Panasonic DVX 100A, which is like one of the first 24p cameras. And I was like, I'm doing this. And then I did a casting call. I got the actors, and then I still remember like the first day of shooting, I went to my friend DePolo's house and I put the camera to the TV and showed him the dailies, and he said, Eddie, this looks like a real movie. And I'm like, okay, this is how we make movies. And that was the first movie I ever did. And fortunately/unfortunately, I never finished it because I have a rough cut of it, like from beginning to end with missing effects. I've always considered releasing it as is, but it's definitely dated. It's definitely not the best written, like a lot of just padding and exposition. I was like really into like, I got to have the people talk about the scientific mumbo jumbo of ghost busting. It was a nice trial and error, but interesting enough, 10 years after I shot that, I made another Ghostbusters film that I released, and I reused footage from the original film in the new film as part of a TV ad, which was great because it looked like it was shot on VHS because I shot on mini DV. So it was like perfect when it played on the TV, and it looked like a cheapo local commercial. And on top of that, one of the lead actors from 2006 was the lead actor in 2016. So it was like a whole like big, like everything came together. Like,
That's
he
cool.
came back 10 years later.
Wow.
We made the Ghostbusters movie that I always wanted to make, and it's probably my favorite film I've ever made.
That's cool. That's so awesome. Is there any way people can check it out if they want to
Oh,
check
yeah.
it out?
It's on YouTube. It's called Five Nights at Freddy's v Ghostbusters. So it's obviously Five Nights
Yeah.
at Freddy's versus Ghostbusters. I think it's currently sitting at like maybe 497,000,
Okay.
which was, I was trying to aim for 1 million. I didn't get 1 million, but it's fine. But I've never gotten such a warm reception to a film, like
That's
a fan
awesome.
film, because fan films are very tricky subjects to tackle. And I still remember the day I posted it up. I'm like, I don't care what happens. I am really proud of this. And people liked it, and it made me feel so good that I was like, I finally made my piece of the resistance of a fan film. Like, this is what I wanted to make, and I finally made it.
and that's what's important. Speaking
Yes.
of fan films,
Mhm.
you have made two in particular that really put you on a map, like for a lot of people to know that there are fan films out there that can be made and done in a way that is true to the source material,
Yes.
and done very well. The first one was Mega Man.
Yep.
So you're gonna tell us a little bit about that.
Oh man, Mega Man holds a very special place in my heart. Character-wise, that's like my favorite video game character of all time. I love the lore. I love just the visual style and what the creators tried to achieve with the earlier games, and just how it's just light and fluffy but action-packed. And it's like I categorize it like the Avengers of video games, where it's like the first Avengers was just, it was a fun, good time, but with oomph. And that's how I categorize Mega Man, which is just like to me like the most well-rounded kind of like video game lore aesthetically. It's just like it's my bag, baby. And I still remember the first time playing Mega Man game when I was 4, like one of my earliest memories. And then I would say maybe early 2000s, mid 2000s, I saw someone made a Mega Man fan film, and that's when it clicked in my head. I'm like, oh, a Mega Man fan film. And I still remember, like, I was really impressed with the film, but it wasn't like true to the source material. It took its own liberties. So I'm like, what if I did Mega Man the way that I perceive him as a character, like true to the game, and not, going too far off the rails of what I think a film like that should be.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2007, 2008 came around, and I'm like, okay, well, I want to do a Mega Man movie. And it was definitely my most ambitious film, because there was going to be so much CG, so many costumes, so many locations, green screen. It was like too much for me to... I went in running, not necessarily thinking anything out. Like, I had my script, I had my plan, but I didn't realize the task at hand and how crazy it would be. And that was it. It was just like my fandom for Mega Man drove me to see it, and seeing that, a Mega Man film can be made.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did it. It's looking back at it, it's like, it's cheesy fun, which
Yeah.
I kind of feel like is what Mega Man should be. Like, you can make it grim dark, you can take it super seriously, but at the end of the day, that's not what Mega Man is. Mega Man walks a fine line, and that's what I tried to do with the movie. And it's interesting. I think like now more people like it now than then. Like, people, like, the reception back when it came out was like pretty positive, but it's like people now kind of going like, it's like almost like at this point that movie is nostalgia, because that movie's like nearly, I think, 8 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So almost a decade. So it's like I still get messages from people saying, oh, I was like 10 when that movie came out, and I was so amped and so excited, and I watched it so many times. So I'm like, wow, that movie actually meant something to a lot of Mega Man fans, and that's super cool, because it meant so much to me as a creator. So I'm glad it meant something to the people who watched it.
Yeah, definitely. So a production like that, what would the budget be, and how, like, did you go in not knowing that it was probably going to be...
I had no idea how much it was going to cost.
Yeah.
It was whatever money I had and whatever money I can get from my family. I think it was like a 93-minute film. I think it cost us like $6,500 over the course of a year and a half. So it wasn't like the most expensive. So like a few $100 every month. And I did things on the cheap. I was really I did everything myself. I did most of the CG to a point. And then I brought in a whole team of people who just contributed for free. Mm-hmm. And they're the real heroes, because I can only get it to a point, and they're the ones who took it into the whole other level in terms of creating the 3D characters, creating the renders, animating. So I was good with like compositing and green screen and those types of effects, like particle effects. But then it got to a point where I realized I would have to bring in more people. They contributed their free time. And it was just like everyone was just doing it for free. Everyone. Wow. The actors did, I think the film took like 17 days to shoot it over the course of a year. So it was like every weekend, every other weekend, 1 day or 2 days. And so much hustling, so much repainting of the costumes, so much, like we had nothing. We had nothing to work with except, and it was like a perfect storm, because my two producers on it, Dan and Dave Horowitz, like, their father owned like a tiny electronics factory So I'm like, okay, so I have a lab that takes care of the like biggest hurdles. We have a lab to shoot in, and the rest was how am I gonna do this action wise or logistically? Like it was like location wise, I knew the locations would fall into place, but it was way too much for a young man such as myself at the time to handle, and I somehow made it through it on $6,500.
That's amazing. It's really cool because it definitely looks to me it was more of a budget. Like it definitely looks like.
Oh, thank
way
you.
more,
That really means a lot.
Yeah, and it's cool that you could do your own CG too. Something I've been trying to learn, and that's not easy.
It's
so
not.
It's awesome, and that leads us to I think is probably one of the biggest I think right now. Your Sonic the Hedgehog fan film.
Yeah.
Which recently got. It kind of surfaced back again.
Second wind.
Yeah, which is incredible, and I think it's probably laying around 4 million views right now.
I think on our channel, it's maybe 3,900,000. But then there was this other channel that released it reposted a month after us, and that's laying at like 7 million.
Wow. Okay.
So they got more than us, but they do put a credit at the bottom. Here's their YouTube channel, and I'm like, we're not making any money on it. So it's like if people want to see it, that's fine. So it's like I selfishly kind of combine the two numbers. I'm like, we're at almost 10 million.
That's
but technically
awesome.
It's
yeah,
like
yeah. It makes sense. And how was the process for that? And did you see any problems with Sega? Because sometimes there's talks of like they're pretty rough with their IPs and whatnot.
I'm not an expert in fan film law, but there's like all these like unwritten rules in terms of how to handle a fan film, how to market it, how to make it clear that you're not making any profit on it. So from the whole Mega Man and Ghostbusters process, I was like, okay, so I know how to handle any hurdle with this movie. I know how to deal with any potential issues. Like even if we had a cease and desist, I had ways of kind of like maneuvering where I'd be like, okay, I can rework this into something. I had backup plan, but I knew as long as I treaded this line correctly, that Sega would be okay with it, because they're always okay with certain fan works as long as you don't go out and say this is an official product, this is an official this. Like, I thought the biggest hurdle would be once we announced that Jaleel White was attached to it. I thought Sega would be a little like, okay, they're making this a little too, a little too legit. Like they're getting the voice actor. Is this going to be an issue? But for both Mega Man and Sega, I had reps reach out to me for for both. And they were both super cool. And they're like, as long as you're not making money, we don't see any issues. And it was like, not necessarily them saying that you have our blessing, but like, if you don't do anything weird, I don't think any of us are going to come after you, which was great. So I had no issue with Sega. And even if I did, I had a way of handling the situation.
That's cool. So for the people who don't know, Jaleel White was the original voice actor for the animated Sonic the Hedgehog series.
Yes, for Sad AM and The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah, which is really cool, and then that's awesome. I remember when I first watched that, I was like, "Whoa, this is pretty legit. This could be a real film." I was amazed, and I really wanted to know more about it. And now that we have you here, I wanted to know you left it at a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
So, do you think you would ever continue that, and or do you think it should be left as is?
I want to continue it. I think there will be a day and a time where I'm like, I'm going to do another, because I still get a lot of messages, especially due to recent developments with the official film. Like, people are like, when are you going to do another? When's the follow-up?
Yeah.
And I know I can do it 10 times better. I can do it in a way where a lot of fans would be happy, because I've learned so much since then from that process, and also just looking back at that movie, I'm like, as a Sonic fan, I know how I should do this now. So deep within my heart, there's one more left. I don't know when, but I feel like there's one more Sonic related piece of media that I want to make, and it's lingering down there, and it could be tomorrow or it can be a year from now, but it's something that I have to get off my chest eventually.
Yeah. Cool. So stay tuned, guys.
Yeah.
It can happen. That's awesome. I wanted to ask you also about the actual film that's coming out. I think it's called Sonic.
It's just called, just like mine, just called
Sonic.
Sonic.
I mean, now, a couple of things. Do you think the team has. I'm pretty sure they've probably seen yours.
Oh, they had to.
They've definitely probably seen your film. Now I want to know your thoughts and the look of Sonic, the proposed look of Sonic, and the leaks and everything. I just want to know, what is Eddie LeBron, the original? I would call you the original Sonic the Hedgehog filmmaker. What does he think?
When it comes to Sonic, like, let's talk design. Like, there's a line that you walk because there is a very specific representation just of Sonic. When you see a character, you're like, that's Sonic. You see all the little nuances, like, and from Sega Sonic CD to Sonic Adventure, like, still even the transformation to 3D, like, that's Sonic. And that's what we tried to follow. But apparently Paramount Pictures doesn't want to follow that. And I am not a fan of the new design. I thought that I pushed the boundaries of, like, how realistic you can make Sonic, because there was a line that I was not crossing. And I got so many different designs from our artists, and I was like, I said no to a lot of things, because I was like, at the end of the day, we have to look at this character and be like, that's Sonic. He's more photorealistic, but that's Sonic. And I don't think the one that is legit, like the one that's officially out there, is like, that's not Sonic. It's very. I got worked up when I first saw it, and I'm like, this can't be. Like, I'm such a huge fan of when you see a character, like, there's this representation, there's this iconography of that is that character. Like the Ghostbusters, like, certain uniform, certain pack, like, you look at that and, like, that's a Ghostbuster. And then once you tread too far from it, no longer represents why fans are into this in the first place. And I feel like the Sonic design, it forgets what it is. Like, the posters and all the leaked information, everything is, like, systematically saying that this is not going to be the type of Sonic movie that we want. Like, there has to be a fantasy element. There has to be something otherworldly. Even if you want to ground it, like, it has to be a representation of what Sonic is and those games are. And this film is, they're doing what they did with Woody Woodpecker. They're doing what they did with Hop. They're doing what they did with all these other CG movies, which is like, we're just, it's like a buddy cop. Sonic and his friend, they're going to go and have a blast, and Jim Carrey's going to chase after them. Oh, they're walking through this little town, and it's like, ugh. Here's the thing, I'm restraining myself because I can go on a whole tangent, but it's just like, it's not that hard to get something like that right. Yeah. Like, it's very, like, we haven't seen any trailers yet, but it's like, the whole thing's worrisome. Like, we finally have a live action Sonic movie coming out.
Yeah.
And it's going to be this. That sucks, man.
I know. I mean,
sucks.
It's like, Sonic the Hedgehog is one of my all-time favorite video game characters.
Yeah.
Like, I grew up on that, like, playing all the games, and I've been waiting, and I'm excited, but seeing that, it was kind of freakish. It was scary. I don't think kids are gonna look at that and be like, "Oh, that's so cool." It looks freakish, and what's even more scary is that supposedly it's coming out in 2019, so they're pretty much done with it. So
that means they're somewhere in post-production right now, and it's here's the thing, who knows how far along they are. Could they make changes? Maybe, but also studios, certain entities are stubborn. Like, for all we know, that's the director's, like, idea. This is how Sonic needs to look, and he's going to stick with it. It's like, I can see, like, certain fans, they will get upset to the point where it's, like, very startling. Like, why are you so upset? But then you also have to understand, like, film is a huge medium. There's going to be so many eyes on Sonic. Like, Sonic is going to be mainstream again. Like, he was, and then he kind of became something else, like a secondary character to all these larger franchises. And now Sonic is being put back in the limelight, and everyone's going to be very protective of, like, this is how are people going to perceive this Sonic? This is not my Sonic. So now when I talk to people about Sonic, or talk to them about what I'm interested in, their whole understanding is going to be this movie and this design and this story and this character. And that's going to be upsetting for a lot of fans, because at the end of the day, this is going to be a part of what they like so much, and if it doesn't represent it correctly, of course they're going to be angry. I'm going to be upset too.
I mean, I want to say what's on everybody's mind right now. Why can't they just let you direct the film?
I don't know.
That would be awesome.
I mean, it was amazing when they released like the teaser posters and the other concept posters were released. It was crazy because I saw a surge in viewership of the movie. And I still remember one of the early complaints was the design of ours was like, oh, it's a little too realistic, it's too realistic. And then everyone just came out of the shadows. And all the comments are like, why didn't they go with your design? Why didn't they do this? We didn't realize what we had. And I was like, I feel good that people like the design now in retrospect, but also it's like at the end of the day, I walked the line. I didn't cross it with the Sonic design. And I knew as soon as someone would cross it, like this type of thing would happen. And it's really cool that there's like this new like found love for my film because I put so much work into it and it was exhausting. And I still remember the 3 days leading into the completion of it, I was like having a mental breakdown where I was just like, I was up for 3 days straight. Wow. And I still remember talking to my girlfriend, Beverly. I called her like 6 hours before the completion of the film, like borderline crying. I'm like, I'm so tired. This film will never get done. It'll never end.
Oh, wow.
And then 6 hours later, I called her and I'm like, it's done. It's done. Oh my God, it's done. And then I fell asleep for 12 hours.
Oh, yeah. It's well deserved.
So it's like I worked my butt off for that film, and there were so many hurdles, and it's really nice. Like there's an appreciation for it. But it's also a slight shame. It's like because the official film is starting off on such a horrible foot that, I mean, the love for my film will probably grow, but at what cost? Like the official film is still going to be made. It's still going to release. It's still going to make some money. And that is going to be the representation of Sonic in Hollywood. And that's...
For good or for worse.
Yeah, that's scary.
Yeah. What do you think of Jim Carrey being cast as Dr. Robotnik?
It could be potentially good or bad. Like, it depends on which Jim Carrey. It depends on the makeup. Depends on so many things. Like, Jim Carrey's like he's like Nick Cage, where it's like you're either getting the awesome version or the over-the-top version. And sometimes the over-the-top version is the awesome version, but it's like we don't know which version of Jim Carrey we're getting. So it could be either, like, it could work, it could not. So it's like that's one of my curiosities is like, okay, so he can be good, but we'll see. Like, I'm still such a huge fan of my Robotnik. Like, he is my favorite thing of our movie. Like, I would say the best thing about Mega Man, my Mega Man fan film, my Sonic fan film, is the villains, where it's like I can't ask for a better Wily, and I could not ask for a better Robotnik. I know for a fact if I ever did another Sonic movie, he would be like the first thing. Like, I actually emailed him, like, I haven't talked to him in 6 years, and I emailed him 3 weeks ago because I just wanted to see what he was up to. And he's still out there. He's still, doing his spiel. So it's like, do you want to play Robotnik one more time? I haven't asked him, but it's like, I want to get you in that makeup again and, do something fun with you. But I guess we'll see. I don't know. Like, I don't know which Jim Carrey we're getting.
I mean, it's just crazy to think about it. I mean, I love Jim Carrey. Yeah. But like you said, we just have to wait and see what they go with. But do you think they should have went with, because I don't know if you heard, but with the Nintendo film, Mario, they have a Mario film coming out, but it's going to be like purely CG.
Yeah, completely animated.
So do you think they should have went along that route with a completely animated Sonic, or do you think the live action route is the way to go?
I would say, even having done my film, my biggest regret was that I blurred live action and CG too much. I feel like it should be primarily CG with a little bit of live action. You can have the Robotnik be live action. You could have some live action set pieces, but I feel like most of it should be computer generated. And I would probably, if I was in a position to make the call as an executive producer, I would say do it the way they're doing with Mario and just make a fully CG movie using the money and the resources of the Hollywood system to make it up this level of quality. With like a Mega Man, that can be realized in live action. Sonic is much trickier. Like, at the end of the day, I kind of did mine as like my own like fan experiment, where I was like, I want to see if this works. As a fan, I'm interested in like, what if this type of live action Sonic works? But if I was in Hollywood, I would just completely animated, Pixar style, just because if I'm about to put this out into the ether to millions of people who are going to pay money for it, there's no room for experimentation. There's no room for seeing like what works. At the end of the day, I have to prioritize the fan who's going to come and pay money to see it. And at that point, I would just go completely CG from the, just that's the safest bet, especially for something as outlandish, as intricate and fantastical as Sonic. But I would probably have Robotnik be live action.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting way to go about it. And I just want to say thank you for all those awesome fan films, man. You made it for us fans. It's really cool.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, it's cool, man. And now I think Sandbox was your latest film that you've made.
That is correct.
And tell us a little bit about that.
The short and skinny is it's about a woman coping with loss through the use of a virtual reality headset. I genuinely tried to remember, pinpoint where I came up with the idea for Sandbox, but I came up with the overall concept of like a brother and sister type of story. A few years ago when I wrote the script. It was about a brother and sister going on a road trip and having a little bit of, just trying to reconnect and find out where they went astray. And I was so proud of that script, and then I gave it to my co-writer, producing partner, and she said it was bad. And she's like, I can't lie to you, Ed. I love you too much, but it's just, it's bad. It's so bad. And then I was like, oh. So I put it away, and then I came back to it 4 years later, and I tinkered with it, showed it to her again. She's like, it's still bad, Ed. I'm like, what Eddie, you got to go from you got to rethink this.
Yeah.
Step away, think about it, and you have to reignite it with something else. And then my aunt died on...
Sorry to hear that.
Thank you. Christmas 2016. And then I saw how my mom reacted to the whole scenario, and it was like one of the worst experiences of my life. I can handle death fairly well.
Yeah.
I get that from my dad, just how to handle emotions when something like that happens. But seeing my mom react, who was just filled with too much love and very emotional, it was rough.
Yeah.
And then a few months after that, I took some of the grieving process of that, and I put it into Sandbox. And I used that grief. I revisited that initial script that was bad, and I'm like, you know what if I took this core concept and this core concept, combined it with what I'm going through right now through this grieving process, and approached it the way that I would approach a film. At the end of the day, I'm a huge sci-fi fan. I like sci-fi drama. I like having a different spin on things, like something not I like drama, but I like giving it the extra level of complexity that a sci-fi film could give. And then I realized I had to revisit that initial concept as a science fiction movie, and that's what led to Sandbox.
Yeah, wow, that's really cool, man, and it's really interesting. I haven't seen it yet, but I can't wait to see it.
I'll send you a link.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, and I always admired also the fact that you because a lot of these films they take time and effort, obviously, but you always manage to find a way to finish them, and that's commendable.
Thank you.
How did you manage to work it in, especially with having a full-time job? How would you find the time to?
And it's funny because one of my favorite actresses, who was in the movie, Ashley Denise Robinson, she is, I guarantee in 5 years she's going to be huge because she's one of the best actresses I know. She was asking me about how can I go about completing a project, and then I realized how no one ever asked me how do you see it through, and I'm thinking, and I realize I think about the moment where I'm sitting in the theater and watching in front of people, and that is the goal I have in my head. Some people have the final goal in their head. They don't realize it's a subconscious thing where it's my final goal is to write something, and then my goal is to work with actors and get something on in camera, and they don't think past the editing process. My goal is to tinker around with editing. At the end of the day, my mental image with every film I do is I want to be in a packed theater watching it on a screen, and that's what drives me through the whole thing. And if I hit a hurdle, I'm I want to see it on the screen. We got to make this happen. we're gonna make it happen somehow, some way. Like that's how Mega Man got done. Like I still remember some of the early screenings of it justified it because there's this. My favorite scene is when Mega Man beats all of the Robot Masters. Spoiler alert! And Dr. Wily unleashes his master plan, and the next like 4 minutes is my favorite period in like my favorite 4 minutes, my favorite scene in the movie. And I still remember the first 2 test screenings, the audible gas and reactions from the audience. That is why I make movies. Like that, seeing it on a big screen and hearing that and hearing the movie through the speakers and feeling that aura is like, I used that when I made Sonic. I used that when I made Five Nights at Freddy's versus Ghostbusters. I used that when I made Sandbox. Like that final image carries me through the end every time.
That's cool. So you like watching the film with the audience?
Oh, I love it. I loved even with my Ghostbuster film. Even months after it was released on YouTube, I still did a public screening at a convention called MagFest, and we packed the house, and it was such like I thought about it. I'm like, even if I get this on YouTube, I still want to see this with an audience, and we screened it, and it was crazy. Like I did not imagine the room would be packed. I did not fathom it. It was packed. And the whole experience, the vibe of seeing that movie with the audience, like that drove me. Like that, nothing beats that.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible, and it reminds me of Quentin Tarantino. He does the same thing. He loves watching the film with the audience and stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you're a fan of his or not, but he's one of my favorite filmmakers too, and that's cool. I think you guys share something in common. Like that's really cool.
That means a lot to me.
So it's pretty awesome, man. I do want to do like a little segment. It's called Rapid Fire. So we're going to just throw some questions at you.
Sure.
And you just answer them, and we'll just move on to the next. All right. So
Wicked.
What is the film that you're most looking forward to this year?
Oh, goodness. It's a tie between Endgame and Endgame is the first one that comes to mind. Like, I'm super stoked about that. Spider-Man Far From Home. And what? That's 2 IPs. And I'm trying to think of a third one.
It's fine. Go for it.
Ironically, maybe the Child's Play movie.
Oh, yeah.
Because Child's Play was like my favorite horror movie as a kid.
I saw the poster for that.
Yeah, and it's complete morbid curiosity. I don't know if it's going to be good. I don't know if it's going to be bad. It's just, as a movie, as one of my favorite horror movies of all time, like, I am super interested in seeing what the heck they're going to do with that.
Yeah, cool. And what, if you had the chance to do any film, make any film, what would it be?
Any film. I'm going to separate this into IP and original. IP would be Ghostbusters. Like, I want to do a Ghostbusters official movie so bad. Like, that would be a dream. Tied with Mega Man. Like, I know one of those 2 are my dream projects. I absolutely would like give my right leg to do either of them. And original concept is, it's so interesting because it's like I have so many original ideas, but if someone gave me so much money to do something, I'd probably do a feature version of Sandbox. Either that or a feature version of this 1980s throwback movie I want to do, like 2 female buddy cop partners, just like as if the movie was made in 1984. I would shoot it on film, anamorphic lenses, and just make it as authentic as if you found a film in a vault that was locked away since 1984. Like, give me $10 million to do that, and I would be so happy.
That's cool. What's your favorite video game?
Sonic 3 and Knuckles.
Oh, cool. That's my favorite too. That's awesome.
It's the perfect. I can go on for hours. It's like the perfect game, graphically. Just even 16 bits. Like the art that they created with that, the color palette, the music is like, the music is unreal. It's It's hard for me to fathom that there is a video game out there with music as perfect as that, and it's it's 16-bit. It's it's using limited technology, and they created such amazing music, and the gaming experience, the narrative that it tells, like that's like the perfect game.
That's
period.
Awesome. I love that game.
It's so good.
Yeah. Favorite film?
Tie Ghostbusters. Obviously, I love Ghostbusters, and Blade Runner. Blade Runner is my artsy side, Ghostbusters is my mainstream side.
Cool.
And I go back to those movies all the time when I'm trying to find inspiration.
So I would assume you're very excited for the official third film for Ghostbusters that's coming out.
I'm extraordinarily curious, but I'm also super excited because I know, like, all I wanted was a Ghostbusters 3. Like, following up the first two, ending it on a high note. They can, not to say that I'm going to like the movie no matter what, but at the end of the day, I just wanted something to cap off the trilogy, and now we're finally getting it. So it's like, I can't wait. And I think the rumor is that it's going to be like a bunch of teenagers kind of stumbling into this and getting handed off the legacy will be handed to them. And I can honestly see that go very poorly or very, very well, which is why I'm super excited, because I'm like, that is an idea that could lead to amazing things and longevity. Like, imagine those characters 10 years from now, doing this, and there's so much potential. So I'm super excited for that.
Favorite director?
Chris Nolan.
Oh,
he is
good choice.
Inception is like my number 3 film of all time, and he has some haters, but it's like he really has such an amazing understanding of filmmaking and the craft. It's watching his movies are a great case study in how to make a certain type of movie, because he's done many types of movies and he always has his own touch. He is also what I consider, like, if you watch Inception, like, he is the master of, like, exposition. Like, a lot of people talk and say a lot of things, but it's all motivated. Like, Inception, everything that's being said is motivated because this character does not know that. So in real life, yes, you would inform that character of this science in this situation. So it's not like the character is saying something for the sake of informing the audience. They're informing the people around them. So it's like, if you want to know how to write exposition, you watch Inception. If you want to know visual storytelling, you watch Inception. Like, it takes a master to direct a movie like Inception, which is why I'm a huge fan of his.
Yeah, he's definitely a good choice. Again, like, I have many favorites, and he's one of the favorites. Excellent. I have too. One of my favorites, Interstellar, man, and Inception.
I love Interstellar. Interstellar doesn't get enough love. Like, that. Yeah. The last 4 minutes of that movie are just, that's how you direct actors. That's how you handle scenes. It doesn't get enough love. I freaking love Interstellar.
Yeah, it's great. And finally, the final question. When are you going to put me in that Aladdin fan film?
I don't know. You're the second person to ask to star in my Aladdin fan film.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Well, we do have to work together. That is a certainty.
And I'm looking forward to that if it does ever happen.
Oh, no, it's going to happen. We just we got to figure out the right project, because, like, I got to get you in front of a camera.
Yeah, I would love to do
You have much better
anything.
hair than me, so.
Oh, dude.
It's destined.
But you're way behind the camera, so, I mean.
I'll make your hair look great.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Hey, Eddie, it was awesome just hanging out with you and chilling. Hopefully we can have you back again. And hopefully this time it will be with an even bigger project that you managed to pull off.
I got something in my pocket, and I guarantee it'll make a splash, and we'll be talking about it soon.
I can't wait, man. I'm looking forward to it. You're awesome.
Thank you.
You're chill and very talented. So it's an honor to have you here. And I'm looking forward to seeing you again. And if you guys want to check out anything that Eddie LeBron has, where can they find it?
You can go on to eddielebron.com. You can follow me on Instagram at Eddie LeBron. I post updates on everything. Or bluecorestudios.com or youtube.com/bluecorestudios. I almost feel like maybe my Instagram is probably the best, most up-to-date outlet on what I'm working on, what's screening, what's happening. Cool. So that might be the place to go.
All right, so you guys heard it here. Go check him out. He is probably going to be your favorite director too, so you should definitely check out his stuff. Thank you so much for coming through. I really appreciate it, and thank you guys for watching. Remember, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell. And if you want to check out anything else or have any suggestions for guests that you want us to have here on this show, write in the comments below. Eddie LeBron, thanks again, man.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. By the way, your voice is very stoic. You have when I first heard your voice, it's like Batman. It sounds like Batman for some reason.
You're literally like the 7th person in the last year to say I have a good voice, and I'm like, you're lying to me, but thank you for that anyway. I hate my voice.
Anyways, thank you again, man. Appreciate it. That was awesome.
was great.
That was really fun. Thank you.
Wow, you kept the pacing very well. Oh my God.
Thank you so much again, man.